All right, we're here with Charlie McGettigan. Of Charlie, of course, you'll know from RockNRoll Kids. I suppose would be one of your more things that you're well known for. But a lot of people might have known that you grew up in Ballyshannon and you played a lot of gigs here in Bundoran.
Did. I grew up in Ballyshannon in the 1950s and 60s. And the first sort of connection I remember with Bundoran, we were at a school concert in the Rock Hall in Ballyshannon. And this guy came on with an electric guitar and sang beautiful songs. And it was Liam Travers was his name. And I said, when I saw him with this guitar, it was a real shiny guitar and he had a lovely amplifier. And, you know, he would have been about maybe 16 at the time. And I said, Chris, I want to do that. You know, and he was one of my very early inspirations.
Had you any inkling before that?
Oh yeah, I was interested in music, but I never. When I saw Liam, I realised somebody could do it. You know that it wasn't just the Everly Brothers that could do it or Elvis Presley that could do it, but somebody could actually get up and sing and play the guitar. And I kind of thought, Chris, I could do that. You know, give us a job. You remember that play, The Boys from the Black Stuff? Give us a job. And I persuaded my dad the following Christmas. I was about 13 at the time. I persuaded my dad to buy me an electric guitar. But of course, I didn't realise I had to have an amp as well. But anyway, I had a guitar and that was it. And the next connection with Bundoran would have been, you know, as we grew older, you know, 14, 15, we began to form little bands. And we had a little band in Ballyshannon and we'd no bass player. And we knew of a fellow from Bundoran called Jimmy Gallaher. Jimmy goes out now as Tin on Top, you know who he is, and he was Sean Gallagher's brother. And Sean was actually playing with the Rich Fitzgerald Cayley band at the time. He was the guitar player in that band, which is kind of unusual because Cayley bands didn't normally have guitars in those days. But anyway, we got to know Jimmy, and we needed a bass player, and Jimmy fitted in. And I remember well, we used to rehearse in Ballyshannon, and Jimmy would thumb a lift with his bass under his arm and his little amplifier from Bundoran into Ballyshannon, and we'd sort of practice. And we were so bad nobody would book us, you know. So eventually, I remember one of the first gigs we got was at the Danby Horse Show, the show dance, and we sneaked in under the canvas at the back of where the bands were, and we went up to there was a man called Paddy McCafferty, his band were playing, and we said, could we do something? Could we do a start here? And we proceeded to make a total mess of things, and we did it. But anyway, it was a start, and we got it.
Your first gig.
Yep, our first gig. And Jimmy was a great asset because Jimmy had access to Sean as well, and Sean had great experience. He was a good bit older than we were and had a lot of experience. But, you know, we played at all kinds of little hops and dances and stuff like that. But then one summer, I think it was the summer of 1966, I think it was, this fellow called on the phone in Ballyshannon. His name was Sean Byrne was his name, and he was after leasing a pub where the Chasing Bull is now. You know, and that was known as the Long Lounge. There were two Long Lounges in Bundoran. People forget that. Yes. There was a Long Lounge
where the Kicking Donkey is now.
There was one up where the Chasing Bull was, and gassed away the two of them have animals in the name after all this time. But he said, I'm after leasing this pub and I've a busload of Belfast people after arriving in and I have no music for them. This was now in the afternoon. So I said, I heard you had a band. And we have, yeah. And well, we know we need a pub. And I thought pub bands were all ballad groups. So I went down to Paddy O'Neill's in Ballyshannon and bought the Guinness Book of Irish Ballads. And myself and a friend of mine, Neil McBride, went out to Bundoran and we called Jimmy, and Jimmy said, yeah. So we went in and we played for these Belfast. Oh, we must have been dreadful because we hadn't, you know, a clue what we were doing. But whatever it was, Sean liked us. And he gave us the summer season. So from then on, we played for 3 months that year, every single night of the week, for about 4 hours every night. So it was one of the most fantastic learning experience you could possibly want. Because in those days, if you were playing in a pub, the whole idea was that you would get people from customers to come up and sing, and they'd love to get up and sing. So you get people coming up and singing Frank Sinatra songs, or they'd be singing Dubliner songs, or the Clancy Brothers, or it could be anything. So you had to learn how to back these people, and as well as that, you had a lot of them would get up and sing in several different keys at the same time. So you were literally shifting around. So we learned so much that particular year. And there's a photograph somewhere, I showed it on a TV show I was on recently, of Jimmy and myself and Neil McBride, who was the other fellow, and we played for the whole summer. So the next year, Neil was gone, and Paddy Brady had a pub up in the West End, Bradys Cavern House it was known as, and Paddy was stuck for somebody, and Jimmy had heard about it, and so myself and Jimmy ended up getting the summer season there the following year and the year after that. So you can imagine how polished we were, like the Beatles going to Hamburg. You know, it was it was the fact that you were playing so much. You know, it was non-stop, blah blah. You know, and so that was my main connection. Now, at the time when we were playing there, down here in the Hollywood where we're talking from now, Brian McNiff was the main act, and a fellow called Cormac McCready, who was from Ballyshannon. He was a sort of ballad singer and could sing anything really. And believe it or not, Paul Brady. Now I didn't know who Paul Brady was at the time, but I remember, and it's one thing I probably left out. We were playing in St. Patrick's Hall out here one night in a 3-band session, and at that time there were 3 kind of rock and roll bands. We all thought we were going to change the world, you know, but there were 3. There was a band in Bundoran called Federal Aviation, was the name. A great name, Federal Aviation, and Lawrence. God, what's his second name? Lawrence. Gone out of my head. Well, it'll come back to me. But Lawrence was the lead singer, and he was a big Van Morrison fan. And I was the lead sort of part in our band. I don't know, I can't remember what we were. We changed our name by the week. And then another band from Ballyshannon called the Erratics. They were kind of a play on the Rolling Stones, because geologically an erratic is a rolling stone that rolls down a mountain. So great clever names.
Did anybody get it?
What? I don't know. I don't know. I didn't get it till I was in second year in school, you know. But we this wonderful band, 3-band session. Now, we were all strutting our stuff and thought we were great. And the next thing, this tousled-haired, ginger-haired fella came out of nowhere, and he came out with a Fender Mustang guitar, which is really posh. If you had a Fender guitar, you were really doing well. And he came up on the stage and he sang "One Night With You," the old Elvis song. And we were gobsmacked. Everybody sort of slowly shrunk, because this was Paul Brady, and we had never heard of him before. And sort of he was the creme de la creme. He was wonderful. Even then, he was a rock and roller at those stages. He didn't really play acoustic guitar at all. But then I found out that he was playing up here in the Hollywood, and so we were all in that position. And those times, I remember out there in Cavan House, there was also the Royal Hotel on the other side. There was music there. There was music virtually in every pub in the town. And the whole trick was that when we would be playing in Paddy Brady's, the other bands, I always had a speaker outside to let you know there was music and you could hear. So we used to go over and disconnect the speaker from the Royal Hotel so that nobody knew there was anything. We get all the crowds then, you know. But Brady's was an after-hours pub at that time, and you know there was still the police calling and all that, and we'd be playing there till 2 and 3 in the morning. And there was a special watchman came in at night, and he would watch out for the police, and everybody'd have to scurry. Now, at the back of Brady's, there was a steps down that led right down to the shore. Yes. You know, and I remember one particular night there was a raid, and nobody wanted to get caught, and 2 or 3 people tripped over each other and fell into the water, and it was chaos altogether. You know, but it was an innocent time. Bundoran was just a lovely place then, you know, some wonderful musicians around the place. Phil Coulter at the time was playing up in the Great Northern, which is then called the Great Southern for some reason. I don't know why they changed. Brady in here, and you know, there was just music. I remember people like John Campbell and Liam Travers, of course, would have been playing the scene at the time. There was just music everywhere, and we had there was just a lovely attitude. But we finished that year, it was 1968, I remember, and I went to work in Dublin with the ASB. And in '69 I came back from my holidays, and the Troubles had started. Bundoran had changed. You know, nobody wanted to hear anything but rebel songs. You know, no, I knew lots of rebel songs, but you know, I remember Paddy asked me would I go out one night. I was on my holidays. Would I go out and do a night because somebody couldn't turn up? And I was gobsmacked. They didn't want to hear any kind of other music except rebel songs and pro-IRA songs and stuff like that. It was a kind of not that I'm anti-Republican or anything, but it just changed the whole atmosphere around here. And for that whole 30 years, during that Troubles, Bundoran was a very much a Republican town, and there was a lot of problems. And of course, the Hollywood was completely different. Although there was a kind of a lobby like there is now there, but people, it was much less sophisticated than it is now. But that was Bundoran for me, and I always, anybody ever asks me, what was the biggest influence in your life, and it has to be Bundoran, because we learned so much, and we had so much fun learning. It was just wonderful. And at this point, I would like to thank people like Liam Travers, because Liam was also, people were very generous. He would lend us an amplifier here, a guitar there, or a microphone. I remember Sean lent me his Gibson guitar, Sean Gallaher, lent me his Gibson guitar for the summer one year. And, you couldn't get better than that. It was a great, everybody supported, except us. We pulled the speakers out.
You'd notice some change, I'd imagine, now in the town.
Yeah, of course it is. It's more an all-year-round town now. I remember those days, 16th of September, I think, was the Harvest Fair Day in Ballyshannon, and Bundoran closed then. It was gone for the summer. And you would literally walk the streets of Bundoran and not meet one person. And it was sort of leaves and bits of debris be blown up through the town. It was like one of those... tumbleweed. Yeah. It was just... Then there was a season. And it's funny, I remember particularly in Bundoran as well, there was what's known as Scotch Fortnight. Yes. That was the last week in July and the first week in August. And all these people came from Scotland. Loads, I mean, hundreds of people would come here. And for the first week, they'd be down in the drink like nobody's business. Second week, there'd be three fellas sitting around one pint, with 3 straws or something, But they literally knew how to enjoy themselves. So we got to know a lot of people from Scotland and stuff. And I'd imagine, when I look back, the Rich Fitzgerald Cayley Band they were fully professional Cayley Band. They toured in Scotland, as did the Assaroe Cayley Band in Ballyshannon. There was always a kind of a rivalry between the two of them. So Bundoran was full of music. I don't know whether it is now, but it is. I suppose it's still even more now, I'd imagine, with these holiday weekends and stuff.
Did you sing Beautiful Bundoran?
I didn't, but I know the song. And I remember it was out by, I know there was Cathy Fitzgerald, I think, had it out here, but Eileen Donaghy released it as well. She was Plunkett Donnelly, Donaghy's the football player, the blonde hair. You might remember. You're too young, but Eileen Donaghy was a wonderful singer, and of course Brady Gallaher would have been a regular here. And I'll tell you who came quite a bit was a woman called Maisie McDaniels, yes, who was a big TV star at the time. She's on Sligo, yeah, and she has a daughter, and I can't think of her name. That sings Lisa Stanley, yes. Yeah, he's right. And but Maisie was a regular visitor here, because in those days she would have been playing maybe somewhere else, and on her way back she'd call into Cavan. I remember seeing Luke Kelly in Cavan House, for example. Luke had been in, and the reason Luke was
Phil Coulter told a story actually that he came down and he invited Luke Kelly down, yeah, thinking nonetheless of it, yeah, and the next thing he landed.
Yeah, and he landed in Brady's, because we had a fella called Hugo Quinn who was a trumpet player with the Clipper Carlton show band. And he used to come on his holidays to Brady's. Brady's was a guest house as well as a pub. So he had a fortnight holidays, but he's played every night with us. And that brought Brady up and everybody up. The session went on for nights and all hours of the morning. And great music. Absolutely everybody having a jam session, But then I hear, even down in Leitrim now, I hear about some great music around Bundoran at the moment, lots of new music,
different bands, and of course C Sessions obviously helps as well.
And Boxty, I mean, where would you leave Johnny Gallaher? It's funny. I was just looking at him last night on a YouTube video. He's just fantastic. Of course, Sean Gallagher's son, But that was Bundoran.
You're still doing a bit of music as well?
I am. I'm 67 now, and I just do what I like. If somebody calls up and I like it, like the sound of it, I do it. I don't really need the money anymore.
Well, as we talk, it's Culture Day, yeah, Culture Night, so you're heading on to Lifford tonight.
To Lifford, yeah. They wouldn't have me anywhere down in Leitrim. They have me up in Lifford. I'm kind of looking forward. It's in Lifford Jail. Oh, right. Yeah, which has been converted. I know when I get there. It could be a complete disaster, which we'll see what happens. But Bundoran, continues. They have a lovely winter festival as well, a winter kind of winter school here that I've been at a few times as well and contributed to that, Yeah, it's a good place.
Great. Charlie, listen, thanks very much for your time.